Hi, everybody. We're right here in the greatest community in Texas, El Paso, Texas, our hometown. The show today, Austin in Focus, really is about veterans, our men and women in uniform that are protecting our freedoms around the world. And if you left it to me, that Nobel Peace Prize would have gone to American fighting men and women who have guaranteed freedom since World War II in one venue after another around the world, and to protect what we believe is the essentials of democracy. So today's guest is Stephen Munoz, right here in El Paso, Texas. So those of you who are thinking about a military career, here's our guy. Stephen has made us proud. He's gone off to the military academy, had 2 tours in Iraq. Stephen, welcome to the show.
Yes, sir. Senator, thank you for bringing me here.
You got it. Let's talk about you for a little bit. Tell us about growing up in El Paso. Where'd you go to high school, and what got you interested in going in the military?
Well, sir, I'm from the East Side. I graduated from Hanks High School. While in high school, I wrestled, I studied, studied some more, and that's the way I was raised. To get up, go to school, do your sport, to do as much stuff you can with the family, and just do your thing. Growing up, don't worry about the stresses of the world. Just do your thing, but do good at it. And
is there military in your family? Dad, uncle,
my stepdad growing up, he served in the military. We moved with him to Arkansas. We spent some time with him there, and then we went down to Virginia as well. Spent some time in Fort Belvoir. So growing up, I had a military background. I moved around a lot, so I got that under my belt. So from that experience, from my stepdad, I kind of looked at the military and I said, hey, well, I'll go out there and give it a shot. And then another thing was that during when I was in high school, there was the whole, where am I going to get the funds to go to school? Mm-hmm. And so
go to college.
To go to college. And so what it came down to is get a scholarship. So in order to do that, I had to go back to the fundamentals. So I had to go back to what my mom pushed me to do: study and do well at your sports, mm-hmm. and do well for the community. Go to church, do the right thing all the time.
I hope there's some young folks watching out there, because this life, this person here with us today is an El Paso story, is a great one. That with hard work, with being honest, with going out and doing your best every day, just do your best, that great things can happen. And certainly Stephen's a story of that. Let's get back to your Hanks career, because I'm always interested in the sports angle. So you wrestled. Did you guys go off to state? Did you? What weight did you wrestle?
I wrestled 160. We did go out to state. Our team during that time, 98, 97 years, our team won second in the state. We were runners up for the state. We had an excellent team. The Coach Carter, he was absolutely awesome. He pushed us to our limit, but at the same time, he took care of us. And because of that, I learned valuable leadership lessons from my coach as well. So not only did I get it from the academic part of going to school, taking courses, but I also got it from the athletic side as well, which is very important to our growth. And because of that experience, I learned a lot of other things, such as discipline, dedication, hard work, prioritizing, and last but not least is teamwork. We all worked together to hit that common goal, and that goal was to go out there and win state. And even if we came down short, we all knew that we put in that additional effort to do as best as we can.
So what did wrestling teach you? You're mano a mano, you're on the mat, you've put in a lot of sweat, blood and tears to get there, you've done your rope work, you've been down in the basement sweating off weight. But what did it teach you that you then used in Iraq when you were in the military?
Basically, I still live by it today. We used to have in the back of our shirts, it's the will to win is worth nothing unless you have the will to prepare. So that statement alone has guided me through many different things. One big thing in my life has also been, being in the military. And while in Iraq, or before going to Iraq, I remembered I used to push my soldiers to prepare even before going out there to do our mission. So even when we were back home in Fort Carson, it was go out there, you do physical training. You will learn how to use your equipment. You learn how to do your tactics, your procedures. Everybody knew what they had to do in case the worst ever happened. So one, you go in there prepared, ready to go out there to do your mission, and I kept on following through with that same mentality that I picked up in wrestling back in high school.
So let's get you from Hanks to Iraq. So you went to Hanks and you graduated. Then what was your education after that?
After I graduated from Hanks, I went directly to the United States Military Academy Preparatory School. I went to the preparatory school because, one, I looked at West Point very late in my senior year, and two, my SAT score was not high enough. I did not score to what they were looking for, but what I did do is I showed a well-balanced portfolio. Basically, I showed them that I had academic excellence. I graduated with over 3.5. Athletic excellence. I was also a team captain in wrestling, and also community excellence because I'd go out there and I help serve the homeless.
Wow.
And
with what program?
This was during NHS.
Yeah.
So that other group, Student Council NHS, you go out there and you help them out as well, and also community service.
Oh, great. So you had the ganas, the toughness, the tenacity to say, well, I didn't make it this first run on my SAT, but I'm not going to give up.
Right.
So you went through a prep course exam, program and so forth, and then you reapplied to West Point, right?
Yes.
That's the United States Military Academy up there in the Hudson River.
Sure is.
One of the finest military educations in the world, and that's where you went.
Yes, sir. Sure
Wow.
did.
And so you went through 4 years there, and then what did you learn there about the art of war? What is it that you could apply in theory that you could bring back when you really had men and lives at risk?
Right. The biggest thing that I got out of the military academy, it's the well-rounded education. You go in there, I specifically majored in mechanical engineering. So I got the engineering side, the scientific side. But the other part I got was those soft skills. They taught you leadership. And there's a thing out there that leadership can't really be taught, but I like to beg to differ. You can teach somewhat the concepts of leadership. During that time, they also gave you the well-rounded education with respect to history, economics. They go into international relations, American politics. And we also, our senior year, we take 1 year course of study in military history. So during that time, we go all the way from the establishment of America through World War I, World War II, and you go through and you basically analyze warfare, the history of American warfare. We identify, what happened, what led us to there, how did our politicians react to it, how did the people react to it, and what's the focus of the conflict, or what's the reason why we're going to war, and how is it justified? And so during that time, we went through all those different scenarios and got a lot out of it. And because of that, we're able to go around, and when we're in the service, we're able to assimilate all the different pieces of information, our mission, stuff we see on CNN, and we're able to put it in a concise way and explain it to our soldiers, which is incredibly important.
So from a national perspective, in looking at war and war theory and what you learned, you've got the people, you've got the leaders of the people, and then you've got the military, the Army, the Navy, the Marines, Air Force, in service to what the people want to get done, what their leaders are articulating, and those need to be in sync.
Yes.
All right, so you went through West Point, and then you were assigned to Iraq. Tell us about that. How did that work?
While at West Point, September 11, 2001 happened. And so basically before that point,
What was it like on campus when that happened?
Yeah, it was, well, for me, that day, well, it's kind of weird. That day was absolutely, it was a magnificent day. There was no cloud in the sky, especially being in New York. It was just an absolute beautiful day. Yet it was sort of surreal. That morning, we wake up, you go to class, and it was absolutely beautiful day. But when that day happened, September 11, 2001, we came walking out of class. The first thing I noticed that was a little bit odd was that we had an MP that came out with an M16. And then they started asking us for ID cards at the military academy, which to me, I knew that there was something significantly very, very wrong.
So you hadn't seen it on TV, just coming out of class.
Right.
But all of a sudden there's new procedures in place that you've got to ask questions. What's going on here?
Yes, sir. And then the next thing we do is we had our little TV cards in our TVs, which is, you can't really watch it, but you did. I did it. And I saw what was going on in New York City. And New York City is only an hour south of West Point. And so from there I started thinking, okay, think worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, they could fly up north. Next thing you know, they hit the Pentagon. And another jet fell in Pennsylvania. Who knows what else is out there? And knowing that the academy is an hour north of New York City, what was going through my mind is this could be another hotspot. But lo and behold, it was not. So after that point, I graduated in 2003, so we all knew that we were going to graduate into a wartime environment, which is a little perplexing because during the whole time at the military academy, they were telling us, you're here to learn about warfare. You're here to lead our soldiers into battle, into whatever our nation is going to go up to. And from graduation, I was prepared. I was ready to go out there and basically teach our soldiers on what to expect.
Did the feeling change in your class? So you've seen this, you've read about it, it's right down the river from you. It's the worst attack on American peacetime soil, probably in our nation's history. I mean, you have to go back to 1812 or maybe what happened with Pancho Villa to find something similar. But so you're looking at this on TV, and now you are the leader, you're the officer corps of this nation's future. Did it make you think differently about where you saw yourself? Did you see yourself now preparing for actually being on the battlefield?
Yes. Over the next year and a half, because it happened September, so beginning of my junior year, there is a dynamic shift. Like I was thinking, when I graduate, I am going to go into a time of conflict. Although during that time, the initial Iraq war started in March 2001, and during that time, it was basically sold to our country as a short war. We're going to go in there, do what we got to do, and then bring everybody back home. Unfortunately, we're still talking here today in 2009, and it is obviously not a short war. It is I would want to say that it's a limited war that our country is involved in, although I do believe that it should become an unlimited war in that more resources and more effort should go into resolving this conflict.
Okay, let's get back into Iraq, and then let's talk a little bit about the president's decision on Afghanistan that he's going to make this week, because I think the whole country is involved in his process, and I, for one, think it's marvelous that he's taking the time to hear from all input, from military advisors, from past, present, and future, to what's on the ground, to what the civilian, actual sustainable strategy is going to be going into the future. And it's a decision really that the world depends on, because so many different players are involved in Afghanistan. But so you get assigned to Iraq. Tell us briefly what happened there. What was your experience? Here's an El Paso boy, one of our guys making us proud. You're over in Iraq. Tell us how you felt when you got there.
The first time I went, immediately I was first I was a graduate of the military academy. The general idea of graduates from the military academy is, this guy is going to come around, he knows everything, he's going to think he knows everything. But I took a different approach. I walked in there and I, kind of learned what was going on. I decided that I wanted to learn from the soldier who has already been in conflict, who has already been in combat. So basically, he or she has a lot more to teach me than I ever can, because I'm just walking out of a school.
Where did you get that piece of wisdom? That is wisdom beyond your years. How did you know to think that way?
I think it was growing up. My mom, remember sometimes she'd come back home from work like, we got a new boss in, he's starting to change everything. And it's just not going as smoothly as it was before. And I remember that just growing up. It's not walk into an environment and start changing things. It's walk into an environment, kind of like what our president's doing today, is walk into an environment, identify all the different players, identify the different courses of action, then from there, make your decision. It may not be the best decision, but it's a decision based upon known facts and what everybody is giving you.
So where were you in Iraq, and what was the conflict, and what was your mission?
When I first got to Iraq, I caught the tail end of the initial invasion. I caught the last 4 or 5 months of that deployment. So basically I went in there as a second lieutenant, brand new, freshly minted, out of the military academy.
Without any canas?
Without any ganas.
But canas, like me. I think you had plenty of ganas.
Yes. Oh yes, and I got there, and the first mission was, okay, you're going to be the assistant logistics officer for the battalion. okay, I've never done this before. I don't know anything about logistics or anything. Like, I went to school to be an engineer, and lo and behold, send you off to a place of conflict where you can't come home or you can't come home, and you don't know what's going to happen. But they gave me the mission. The mission was, we have all of our equipment here. I want you to take this stuff in Baghdad, Iraq, and take it back to Colorado. We're going to give you a manifest, load everything up, and get it back home for us. That was my first mission.
Mm-hmm. So what was the next one?
It took me the entire time to get that one, resolved.
So you're talking about tanks and
yes,
trucks
I'm talking
and gas
about
trucks and different kinds
gas
of
trucks, water trucks, tanks, M113s, all the different pieces of equipment that we have, mill vans just filled with stuff. So we had to track all that, put it on the railhead or put it onto the trains, get everything shipped back home. And it was a good amount of supplies because we were an engineer company, and it was a good task.
So what did you then evolve to?
After that, when I got back home, or when I returned to Fort Carson, Colorado, I immediately went to Sapper School, which is a specific engineer school, kind of like a little less than Ranger School, but not technically Ranger School. They teach you expedient demolitions and engineering tactics. So after I got done with that school, I became a platoon leader. And as a platoon leader, you have basically 28 soldiers who are under your command. And in that role, you basically had to apply your leadership skills. So I did the same thing then as I did before when I went to Iraq the first time. This platoon was with 28 soldiers who had already been to combat. They had already been there. They had already done that. They've done search and seizures. They kicked in doors. They've done what we've asked them to do, and they did so courageously. And because of that, I went in there with the same kind of attitude. You know, you learn from them. But at the same time,
any El Pasoans in that unit?
No, there was not. But there was. It was a good unit, and they taught me a lot. But there was no El Pasoans. I was the only El Pasoan. But from that lesson that I learned from there is basically you can't walk into an environment and start changing things. You got to listen to your soldiers, or you have to listen to those who have been there before. And basically what I did as a leader was organize everything, get everything planned out, identify what types of training, additional training we had to do, how the mission was changing, because the mission is ever evolving and it's constantly changing. What things needed to get taken care of, such as family life, because that's highly important to a soldier as well. And that's what we did as a platoon leader, and it was really fast.
And it was a different part of the country, different area that you had specific mission with respect to geographic area and stuff that you had to get done?
Right. When the first time we were over, they assigned you to a specific area. Then I came back home, took over a platoon leader position, had my platoon. Then immediately before I left, I got changed to another job. I was an executive officer. So basically now I was in charge of a headquarters company with over 250 soldiers. And it was one of the biggest companies in the battalion. It had medics, mortar scouts, snipers, all the battalion staff. And then you just had to keep everything organized and planned out. Everybody had to know what was going on all the time.
Tell us about one of your soldiers. Just give us a story about them. Where are they from? What were they worried about? Did they have family back home? Just tell us a story about a guy in Iraq on a given day that you can remember.
On a given day, oh man, I have so many stories. I can't just bring out one.
Just give us one good one.
Let's see here, one good one. Oh man, let's see here. There's just so many good ones, Senator.
Did you have any Mexicanos in your platoon, or guys from the hills of Appalachia? May have been guys that hunted a lot, or
there's Mexicanos,
inner city guys, African Americans that had come from maybe Brooklyn or New York or LA, that from a different environment that you had to kind of get to see one-on-one to understand what they were talking about and understand what their life experience has been. Any experiences like that? Every time I get with my friends in the military, they tell me about the guy that was the Alabama guy that was the best shot I'd ever seen, but they had nothing in common with him. And then another kid that came out of inner city LA, but he had such amazing skills at understanding street sense. So all of a sudden, everybody's in this foxhole together, and they're bringing their skills, their life experiences that add to how the unit's working. So I'm just curious as to
Right.
give us a character that may have been in your platoon that you learned more from than he from you.
Well, okay, I'll talk about Sergeant Vasquez. Sergeant Vasquez was he was one of my squad leaders, and he absolutely loved the military. Loved the military. Every single day he'd come in. Hey,
Where was he
sir,
from?
how you doing? He was from California.
Mm-hmm.
California. And hey, sir, how you doing? What's going on today? What's the plan for today? Well, that's what we got to do. All right, boom, got it, sir. And the awesome thing was that he had an absolutely amazing initiative.
How long had he been in?
He was a staff sergeant, so he had been in for at least 5 years from the first time I met him.
Mm-hmm.
So
Still in his 20s?
still in his, yes, late 20s at that
Wow.
time, early 30s maybe. And he was, he took the initiative and he did it. He did things right. And he would never look for the hoorays, he'd never look for the thanks. But you still have to give that. You still got to show, hey, you're doing an awesome job, keep it up. But it goes back to the whole planning piece. It goes back to being able to, create a good plan. That way everybody knows what's going on. That way people can take the initiative and do their thing. But basically the difference with, Sergeant Vasquez was that he also taught me as well. He was a staff sergeant. I was a young second lieutenant. I'm still young, but I was a second lieutenant fresh out of military academy. And he basically took me under his wing, basically taught me what I had to do. He taught me my job, which was absolutely awesome.
You think it's like that with every lieutenant that gets in? There's someone there that's going to teach you how it really works, and then finally, after a few months, you figure it out. You think that's how it goes in the Army?
Unfortunately, it doesn't happen like that all the way around. There's different personalities that you have to be able to mix and match, but it doesn't really happen as fluid as that.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Afghanistan. Now, the president's going to make a decision here. And I think Iraq is a very different conflict and has been viewed that way by the American people, especially under President Bush. And there's been an ebb and flow of the war in Iraq, and now we're in Afghanistan that I think historically people have looked at, well, this is where the terrorists came from. This is where they were training. This is where a person left, came to my country, and killed people in my country. And we as a people understood that conflict. And now it's very, very dynamic, and it's also very difficult. The president's got to make a decision. What, in hindsight, would you tell President Obama now?
I would specifically say that, like, what he's doing is taking different. He's identifying the strengths and weaknesses of the different types of courses of action that are out there. One is to increase the number of troops to create more of a presence, more of a footprint, so we call it. And the other one is to use specialized units to go out there and hunt cells. Basically, I would say that both need to get done. You gotta take the middle road. And the reason to take the middle road is because, one, you gotta establish the security of the Afghan people. You gotta establish a presence, and you do that with an additional troops. And then two, you also gotta squash the cells. The additional troops, the mission is different. The mission is to maintain the peace and to build a military, or to build a police force. The other mission is to go out there and create hunter cells, to go out there and find those people. So it's a dual relationship. It's a little bit of both.
So now you're the president, and you've got to tell that mama in San Lisario, or Montana Vista, or the central part of El Paso, from Proud Bowie High School or Austin High School, how long is my son going to be there, and what is his life all about? What do you tell the American people now? In Afghanistan, if the decisions are made as you suggest, what do you tell the mother whose son is now in Afghanistan and will be there?
I will say that your son has a defined mission. He knows what he's out there to do, and that your son will be well taken care of by the military.
You know, I want to talk, shift gears a little bit now, and have you speak directly to young men and women who are in Franklin High School or Burgess or Isleta or Fabens, or maybe over there in Austin High School where my dad went to school a while back and then became a pilot, and share with them what is it that is in the military for them. What did you get out of it, and how would you talk directly to them about the values that you get out of a military career?
Right. I would first start off that the military is a very, very good foundation. One, it gives you a foundation of honor and integrity that is missing, especially in the current economic environment that we're in right now. So it gives you a very solid foundation of honor and integrity. Then the next thing is it gives you practice on leadership. You won't learn leadership in one day, but you'll learn through your mistakes. And hopefully through those mistakes, you don't make them again. So you get a very good sense of leadership. And then three, the other one is time management. Time management. There's plenty of times where there's absolutely zero time, but you got tons of stuff to do. So if you could pick up time management while in the military, that's the best place to pick it up. But honestly, the bottom line is the incredible foundation of honor, integrity, teamwork, loyalty, and just working together for a common goal. And that's, of course, service to your country, service to the nation.
Before we have to leave today, we have a special gift that we want to present to you. This is actually the biggest honor that our office can give, but this one's with a twist. You're a representative here, and today we honor the men and women in uniform in our country during this holiday season. I think it's appropriate that we think about their lives and where they are. I was out of this country when I was young, and on Christmas Day in a village very far away when I was in my 20s, and you get lonely and you start thinking about home, and you start thinking about, well, there's going to be turkey, and then pretty soon there's going to be Christmas, and you remember how it was with all the guys that you served with. So there are thousands of men and women around the world today in service to America, protecting freedoms, and so this is a little twist. Our award is Adelante con Ganas.
Okay.
And we're going to get it up here, and we're going to present it on behalf of all the American men and women in uniform. Thank you so much for that. And this resolution,
oh, wow.
And if we can't get the Nobel Prize, the Peace Prize to American women, men and women, then at least we can get them El Paso Adelante con Ganas Award, because really they deserve it. From World War II on,
Yes.
the work that our men and women have done in theaters of conflict and putting their lives at risk for freedom really needs to be honored. So we want to give this to you, resolution from the Texas Senate, and thank you for giving the message to all El Pasoans about the great work, the great spirit, the great sacrifice that our military men and women do for our country.
Yes, sir. On a personal note, thank you for honoring service that we perform on behalf of this great nation. And there's still plenty of men and women downrange that are continuing on with our mission, which is to defend the freedoms of this country and this great nation. And I'm just very speechless right now. I'm very humbled by this. And at the same time, I know that we all must continue forward to reach our goals and to bring our soldiers home and to continue our peace worldwide.
Well, we've been here today with a great El Paso, and I hope many of you watch this show. I hope you have a great holiday season, eat a lot of Thanksgiving meals, have some good time on Christmas. We're going to be playing football on Christmas Day, so that's a tradition of 40 years in our family. But until next time, this has been Austin in Focus, and thanks to Stephen Munoz and the men and women in uniform around the world. Thank you for what you do.